Not one, not two, or even three, but six. Count them, 6 tropical disturbances in the Atlantic this September 10th. The statistical peak of hurricane season, including tropical storms Paulette and Renee. We're live on Tracking the Tropics on this busy September day with what you need to know about here in the United States. Hey there, everybody. JB Buno here with you live in your hurricane headquarters, being joined again by Tracking the Tropics meteorologist Amanda Holly, and joining us from WKRG News 5 in Mobile, Alabama, formerly a WFLA, Chief Meteorologist Ed Bloodsworth, joining us in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. We're going to be taking your questions on Facebook Live and a meteorologist Q&A about these 6 systems, what you need to know about it. You can use the hashtags on your screen, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda, hashtag HeyEd, to ask us a question in the Facebook Live comment section. But I want to begin, everybody, with Amanda Holly here, again, breaking down a very hectic map here. IR satellite, jam-packed with Paulette, Renee, and a whole lot more, Amanda. Yeah, so we're tracking 2 actual systems that are named. That would be Paulette and Renee. Those are not new. We've been tracking those for several days now since the beginning of the work week. But the National Hurricane Center also tracking multiple tropical waves that have chances for development. And then that area of low pressure that you see, the northernmost low pressure, that's off the coast of the Carolinas. We talked about that yesterday. The National Hurricane Center just dropped that one basically from their watch list. So we were at 7 just a few minutes ago, and they dropped that one. So now we're down to 6, which is still a lot of systems out there in the Atlantic. So we'll talk about each one. Paulette, of course, maximum winds at 50 miles per hour. And we're also tracking Renee, which is just next to Paulette. And they're both kind of going to make this same general movement off to the west-northwest, and then they're going to be recurving out to sea. Renee also has maximum winds there of 50 miles per hour, and you can see the tracks. They're going to look very identical. They're going to kind of follow each other, and then both of them are going to kind of recurve back to the north. Again, these not really a threat to the United States. Bermuda, though, may be impacted by a Category 1 Paulette. Both of them are now forecast to become a Category 1 hurricane. So those are going to continue to churn out in the Atlantic, and forecast models are in pretty good agreement that those are going to stay out to sea in what we call fish storms. Now, they are going to kind of pave the way for several more tropical waves that are coming in off the coast of Africa. And what that means is these 2 waves right here. The red blob, that is some showers and thunderstorms that have a very good chance of developing. It emerged off the coast today. It is currently doing so, and it's pretty much going to get its act together right away. You can see that in the next 5 days, it has a 90% chance of developing into something tropical. And that's the system that we are going to be watching for a stronger system, and potentially to make its way closer to the United States. It's a long ways off, though. Closer to home, we're tracking also a couple of tropical waves, one off the west coast of Florida, and then another one that is currently situated over the Bahamas. Now, the one off the west coast of Florida is going to continue to move west in the Gulf of Mexico. That one has a 20% chance of developing over the next 5 days. The area of showers and thunderstorms that you see over the Bahamas, that's that yellow X over the Bahamas, that one actually now has a 40% chance of developing, but not until it gets into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's a tropical wave that is currently producing those showers and thunderstorms. So I've kind of taken off the yellow areas there for you. And they are both going to make their way west. And the areas of showers and thunderstorms that are over the Bahamas will make their way over the peninsula of Florida and then into the Gulf. And that's when it has a chance to develop. And this is exactly when I'm going to bring in Ed, because you guys are going to be impacted by at least this area of showers and thunderstorms, whether it becomes a named tropical system or not. We're already seeing showers and thunderstorms from both of these systems. There's a lot of tropical moisture associated with it. Our rain chances are high here in the Tampa Bay area, and Ed, I'm sure you're increasing those rain chances in your area as well.
Yeah, for early next week, as the system begins to move into the Gulf of Mexico, some of the global models are starting to develop a weak area of low pressure, having this hold together after it passes over the Florida peninsula. And then again, at the very least, you would assume with more of an onshore flow for parts of the Gulf Coast. And we're talking, even the west coast of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, lower Alabama, Mississippi, and eventually towards coastal Louisiana. That area will be seeing long range, some elevated rain chances at the very least. Again, still up in the air as to exactly whether this system will be getting its act together in any significant way. But again, at least some of the models are showing that. And again, you can see that area of teal. I'm glad you pulled that up. Just a high moisture content coming in through the weekend and early next week. So we're going to be looking at least from our part of the Gulf Coast, rain chances maybe 60-70% range, just a very healthy coverage of showers and storms next week. And that could lead to some minor flood threats if we get any of those training thunderstorms, as we often see this time of year.
So I want to bring Amanda back in here, everybody, because one of the things, of course, that we're starting to see on social media, and again, as a reminder, we're going to look for your comments in our meteorologist Q&A coming up here in a few minutes. Use the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda, hashtag HeyEd, and you can ask a question to one of our meteorologists here. That's going to be in a couple of minutes, but you can start submitting your questions now with those hashtags. But Amanda, which one of these systems poses the most risk, or which one of these systems has the highest chance of becoming a hurricane?
So I'm not incredibly concerned about the systems that are on either side of the Florida Peninsula right now. They don't really look, none of the models at this point develop them into anything strong. At this point, we're just talking about those elevated rain chances. What you see right there on your screen, all of that blue, that's a lot of tropical moisture. That's really going to help to spark those showers and thunderstorms. Now, if you look next to my head, basically, just next to Bermuda there, you see that circle of blue. That is Paulette. That one is going to likely develop into a more mature storm here over the next few days. And this goes all the way through next week. And I've kind of zoomed it out there. And now your eyes should be focused in the Caribbean, just south of the Dominican Republic and Hispaniola. There's that darker area of blue right there. That's the invest that is coming off the coast of Africa. This is just one model, and models are all over the place with this system. We really don't have a good idea of where this one is going to go, but I will say this is one that we're going to have to watch, and this one will likely become a hurricane regardless of where it goes. If it recurves out to sea like Paulette and Renee, or if it continues toward the Caribbean. We're going to watch it, but it will likely become a pretty strong storm.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with Amanda with that. That system already looks like it's barely even a wave. It's more like a tropical low at this point. It already has some circulation with it as it's emerging off of Africa. And again, that's a system that has the 90% chance of development. And that general area where it's going to be moving into, highly favorable environment for tropical development, and perhaps some quick tropical development as well. So this will likely become Sally, I believe that's the next name on the list. And then as it moves through the Caribbean, as you kind of know, Amanda, every time this year we have to watch anything that makes it into the Caribbean, and long term, exactly where does it go? Still a lot of questions. How strong is it? Way too early to determine that at this point, but it is that time of the season where we can get some very quick development in the Atlantic Basin. I will say that this area that we're watching here, it is not an invest yet. I'm kind of surprised the National Hurricane Center hasn't made it an invest, but I'm sure we're going to see that here in the next 24 hours. I will say, if we were to see any impacts in the United States, not saying we will, but if that is going to happen, we probably won't see them for 10 days. So we've got a long time to watch this move across the Atlantic, and a long time for those models to continue to flip-flop. One of them will curve it out to sea, one of them will bring it in the Atlantic. We're going to see that for 10 days, and we're going to be talking about this one for quite some time, because it is going to be could be our next major hurricane. We'll see. But again, very early in the stages. And we're just talking about those showers and thunderstorms moving off the coast of Africa. And it has to be over land it has to be over water for it to develop. It's been over land. So now is when we're going to start to see the development phases of that one.
All right, let's open up the meteorologist Q&A portion of Tracking the Tropics. For those of you who have been with us here before, of course, our Wednesday editions are our regularly scheduled episodes, 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central. But if you've been with us here before, you know the meteorologist Q&A. You just use the hashtags you see on the right side of your screen here, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda, and hashtag HeyEd, and we'll take some of your questions from Facebook Live and ask them directly to the experts on your screen. Direct them to Amanda and Ed. They're the meteorologists here. They know what's going on. Let's get to this first question. It's from meteorologist Amanda Holly here. And this question coming in from Jade Kelly from WFLA's Facebook page in Tampa, hashtag Hey Amanda. Do we in Florida have hurricanes coming towards us? Do we need to start getting prepared?
I would say, Jade Kelly, there, you want to be prepared. It is the peak of hurricane season, and we still have a good 30 to 45 days before we can kind of relax back in our seat. Peak of hurricane season today, and from now and through the end of September and through the first several weeks in October, Florida has a higher chance of kind of being hit by hurricanes. So there's not necessarily any hurricanes coming at us right now. We do have some moisture, some tropical moisture overhead. Those are showers and thunderstorms. Like Ed mentioned, we could see some spotty areas of some flooding because we've seen a lot of rain in the past couple of days. But no hurricanes are making their way toward Florida at this point. But we do have, several more weeks to go through of increased activity. Again, today's the peak, but it's not a steep drop off after this. We have several weeks to kind of watch what happens in the tropics.
All right, the next question is coming in. I'm going to send this one over to Ed Bloodsworth. Lee Collins from WFLA's Facebook page in Tampa, #HJB. The one coming across Florida next week for lots of rain. What day will it hit the Tampa area? I'll be traveling. So wanting to know a very pinpointed forecast here for Lee Collins on WFLA's Facebook page, Ed.
And understandable. I know everyone's kind of hyper aware this time of year, especially, considering it was only 2 weeks ago we were watching a major hurricane, make landfall on the Gulf Coast. But, in terms of that forecast this weekend, rain chances are rising over the Florida Peninsula. And then as this emerges late in the weekend and into early next week, into the eastern Gulf, that's when we could see some development. But again, with that deep southerly flow on the eastern side of this possible low developing, you're looking at some higher than normal rain chances, even through Monday. I know I'm from Tampa originally, and you get a plume of moisture can really enhance that sea breeze flow during the afternoon hours. So I think good coverage of storms, you can certainly bet on that through the weekend and into early next week. And then I think as a system, if it does form anything, will likely trend farther to the west. That's when the highest rain chances will begin to shift into northwest Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and then eventually Louisiana.
We, of course, have a lot of Floridians joining us here on Tracking the Tropics. Many of our Tracking the Tropics super fans are here in the state of Florida. Of course, we are right there in the southeastern United States where we anticipate a lot of this moisture coming. So, Amanda, is this a washout for this weekend? For folks just for Saturday, Sunday who have plans, and we're getting a lot of questions about I'll be traveling or I'll be flying or I want to go to the beach. We're just going to see a whole lot of moisture this weekend.
We're going to see a whole lot of moisture, yes, but it's not going to rain 100% of the time, either Saturday or Sunday. Right now, Saturday across the Tampa Bay area looks a little drier than Sunday. There's still going to be afternoon showers and thunderstorms moving in, so the mornings are going to be drier than the afternoons. And just like what we're seeing this afternoon, we're seeing those showers and thunderstorms developing on the East Coast and making their way toward the West Coast. So that's what we're going to see as we head into the weekend. There's just going to be a good coverage of those showers and thunderstorms during the afternoons.
We have a question coming in here from Peggy Middendorf, #Hey Amanda. Does it look like any storms will be near Florida around the end of the month or into the first week of October? So for all of our fans out there that are wondering what we are looking at in the weeks ahead or even the month or so ahead, as a reminder, we don't have any data that suggests what we could be looking at like as far as storms in those. But we do have an idea of how busy the season is going to be, Amanda. That's what we can tell to somebody like Peggy, right?
Yeah, and we're obviously seeing a busy season. We're already looking at our S-named storm. Again, these are the two waves that are going to be coming off the coast of Africa here today and within the next couple of days. That's that orange area. That's a tropical wave that's behind the first one. That'll be emerging over the weekend, and that one also has a medium chance of developing. And then behind that, models continue to move these tropical waves off the coast of Africa. That's normal. We see them. We see these waves move off the coast every 3 to 5 days. Not all of them develop. Some of them develop into strong storms. We have to watch them. This is the time of year that we really have to watch these waves. We have to watch how far south they come off the coast of Africa, and we got to keep an eye on the models because they change. And by the end of the month and into early October, I'm watching it too, but we just don't have that crystal ball to see just that far yet.
And I would say we did get some news from the Climate Prediction Center earlier today. I know one thing we were watching, you hear us talk about all the time, El Nino, La Nina. We were seeing these weak La Nina phase starting at the beginning of the year, or beginning of the summer rather. Weren't sure how long it was going to last. Well, the Climate Prediction Center did just actually place out a La Nina advisory here for the rest of the summer and into our fall and winter. So as we know, La Nina phases typically promote higher activity, higher than normal activity in the Atlantic Basin, which is clearly what we've seen so far this year. In fact, as you kind of mentioned, today is the peak. We go through October. We've only got 4 names left on our list. So I think it's more likely than not that we will make it through those 4 names, and then we will be moving into the Greek alphabet. And that's only happened one other time in history, back in 2005, that record-setting season. So you can bet. I mean, I don't really see anything in the Atlantic really shows any signs that it's going to be shutting down anytime soon. So we just need to stay prepared.
We'll end out on this. We saw this with Hurricane Laura, Ed and Amanda. We were talking about rapid intensification, how a storm that maybe isn't as organized in the Atlantic or in the Gulf can, out of nowhere, just rapidly intensify and become a significant storm worth monitoring more closely. Any worries really in the weeks ahead with those warm sea surface temperatures? Any worries really in the weeks ahead for additional systems showing signs of rapid intensification?
Well, I'll start, Ed. The good news with the storms that are coming off the coast of Africa right now, even if they go through a period of rapid intensification, like I said earlier, we're not looking at those storms. If they were to arrive to the United States, it wouldn't be for about 10 days or so. So plenty of time to watch those. The showers and thunderstorms, though, that we're now monitoring on either side of Florida, those aren't organized at this point. So for a period of rapid intensification to occur, you already have to kind of have an organized system. These systems, they're not organized yet. And the system that's over the Bahamas at this point has to still move over the state of Florida, which is land. And those hurricanes, tropical systems, they don't like land. So it's got to move over the state of Florida, then get organized. And it just doesn't have a whole lot of time to do that. Now, yes, the waters in the Gulf, Ed, they're very warm. So we could see, a storm strengthen a little bit, but I'm not looking at a rapid intensification at this point.
Yeah, neither one of these two systems, I agree with you. They're very disorganized. I hate to use this term, but they're barely anything at this point. They're just big clusters of moisture and storm activity. But anything that does move into the Gulf, we always have to watch it for development, as conditions tend to be favorable this time of year for some kind of development. Even if we see a system move into the Gulf and still hold together as a full area of low pressure, which is highly questionable at this point. We would have, I just don't think that the environmental conditions, at least at this point, even moving into this weekend and next week, would promote any kind of rapid intensification at this point. And again, it's going to run out of time too, as it starts to move towards the coast. But I'm glad you kind of referencing Laura. I was in Lake Charles 2 days ago, following the folks at the American Red Cross there. And unfortunately, with as fast as our news cycle moves nowadays, it's kind of hard to forget it was only 2 weeks ago that 150-mile-an-hour storm made landfall there along the Louisiana coast, and it's still pretty bad there. We got Calcasieu Parish about 95% still without power 2 weeks after the storm, and they're going to be in the dark for quite some time. So bottom line, regardless, I know it's a busy kind of intimidating map when you see all those X's and all those blobs all over the place, but it's not unusual. It is September 10th, but we have to make sure we are staying aware and weather aware and tropical weather alert through the entire rest of our September and into October as well, guys.
I want to get to the final 2 questions we're going to be taking here on Tracking the Tropics. It's from our friends joining us in Georgia to our north, in Georgia from WSAV's Facebook page in Virginia. Let's get to this one here. Hashtag Hey Amanda. How does it look for the lower coast of South Carolina? Neil Lipsitz wants to know this from WSAV's Facebook page, Amanda.
So right now, no worries for you guys in the lower coast of South Carolina there. You're okay at this point. Again, we're kind of watching that area of low pressure coming off the coast of Africa right now. And if it were to make its way toward the United States, pretty much anywhere is fair game at this point. We're 10 days away, so we're going to continue to watch that. I would just say to all of you, not just those of you in South Carolina, North Carolina, I would say Florida, the entire Gulf Coast, and up through the mid-Atlantic states. It's time to really double check those hurricane kits, because as I said before, you can see the graph that's next to me. We have a sharp peak at September 10th, but it's not a sharp downhill. So we've got several more peaks to go, and even through October, we can get some very strong storms move into the Gulf of Mexico. So we're not done yet, and we're going to continue to watch them.
And this question from Isaac Lakeisha Leach Cooper from WSAV's Facebook page in Georgia, hashtag HeyJB. I live in Savannah, Georgia. We're in an area that has, for the most part, saved us. How is it looking now? So what do we say, Ed, to our friends here in Savannah, Georgia?
Yeah, coastal Georgia. Historically, it's very difficult to get direct landfalls in coastal Georgia, just generally with the shape of the coastline and with the overall steering currents across the Atlantic. It's very difficult. It's happened. You've had landfalls along coastal Georgia, but Savannah tends to be fairly lucky, as kind of folks down there in Tampa have, relatively speaking, over the last couple of decades. But as Amanda was kind of mentioning with these two systems, deep tropical moisture is just going to kind of be the story. You'll get waves of that through the season. At this point, we're not looking at any kind of significant threat from any of these systems coming into coastal Georgia, so you'll be fine. But keep harkening back to that system that's emerging off of Africa. Anything that moves to the Caribbean, eventually, six times out of 10, you're going to start to see some curvature to the north as these storms round that subtropical ridge. And so from anywhere from the Carolinas, coastal Virginia, down, obviously state of Florida and all of the Gulf Coast, Texas to Florida. I know it's a large area for us to say you need to stay alert, but that's just kind of the feeling with this now. Right now, we got plenty of time to watch it, and we will continue to do that over the next 10 to 14 days as this, whatever eventually does become, starts to track across the Atlantic.
A crucial part of hurricane season to stay, especially weather aware, and meteorologists such as Ed and Amanda will be keeping you on track every step of the way with all the latest models that come in from the National Hurricane Center, again, as we monitor 6 tropical disturbances in the Atlantic, including Paulette and Renee that you see there on the center of your screen. And as Ed noted, those systems there that are more east towards the coast of Africa. That wraps it up for this edition of Tracking the Tropics. We appreciate everyone who asked questions with hashtag Hey Amanda, hashtag Hey Ed, and hashtag Hey JB. We will be back with more editions of Tracking the Tropics as we continue to monitor these systems and more. As a reminder, our regularly scheduled episodes, Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Central, right here on this app, website, or social media platform. For Ed and Amanda, I'm JB. Thanks so much for joining us here on Tracking the Tropics. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Thank you for watching.